Caballero, the holidays are already here, and us Latinos like to wait until the last minute to find the perfect holiday gift. But why not get the perfect gift early? Claro, I'm talking about the perfect jean. I've been gushing about the perfect jean for years. The stretch and comfort are unmatched. And they just released a new premium 99% cotton version of their jeans. They got that old school jeans look con un poquito de stretch for that perfect jean comfort we love. Think classic meets comfort that's a bit more breathable. Our favorite combo. But it's not just their jeans that are perfect. I'm also tremendo fan of their perfect tees. Made with 95% cotton and 5% spandex, these tees are durable, but more importantly, hug you in the right places to make you look and feel great. Hell, it turns a dad bod like mine into a sexy poppy bod. And it wouldn't be a perfect jean spot without a discount. Use code BERO20 for 20% off your first order at theperfectjean.nyc. Así que don't wait until the last minute. Get the perfect gift with the perfect jean today. And don't forget to use code BERO20 for 20% off your first order.
This is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And this is
Season
6 of Pero Let Me Tell You.
Oye, mi gente. So today we are with, I was going to say an artist, but I'm going to say artiste instead. We are with Melissa Gutierrez. Now, some of you may be scratching your head and being like, well, I don't know Melissa Gutierrez, but I know that you know the Instagram handle West of Chester. And of course, as two born and raised Westchester boys, I mean, with that name, we had to have you on. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
No, thank you. So I will preface this by saying, though, that, you know, right before we started recording, we found out a wonderful little treat, which is that you are a fellow Southwest High alum.
I am, yeah.
Fellow Eagle. It's
We've
funny.
had a few Eagles already
How
on the
many
show.
Eagles we've had on the show? Yeah,
Natalie
Morales.
Yeah.
I think
I love her.
Robbie Ramos. I think was Southwest. Oh my God, I'm blanking on like some other people. But yeah,
That's awesome.
You're part of a very
niche.
I would say a cool club. It's not
Nice.
exclusive,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
because it's a
yeah.
public school. But it's a cool.
But
club.
you know what, though? If you're going to be doing artwork of Westchester, could you
true.
really have gone to any other school?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Only Coral Park, maybe.
oh yeah.
No, but that's not even that's not Westchester.
But
anymore.
I'll no.
at that point, it's just
But
cut
you
off.
know. But you know.
Yeah, I've had people ask like, "Oh, you didn't go to Dash, you didn't go to any art school," and I'm like, "No, not really. I feel like Southwest was just always part of the plan. It was just I was gonna go there and figure it out."
You were in the hood.
yeah, exactly. It was.
According to Alex Rodriguez, you know,
This is true.
Amazing.
How did you dodge those bullets with those pastels?
Yeah.
That's really the question.
No.
but actually, you know what though? We sort of, as Ish said, we sort of came up with the Southwest, commonality between us by mistake.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we did because it puts more perspective into your art.
Oh, really?
Because you are a product of Westchester.
That's true.
You are a product. You live the whole experience of Westchester. Because you could have been from Westchester, but maybe gone to private school someplace else or whatever. But you really, I think the fact that you're from Southwest probably really informs and influences your take on things.
It does. I mean, I feel like, born and bred Westchester, a lot of trips to Jessie Bakery. I mean, that fueled my childhood. But yeah, I feel like, every neighborhood in Miami is so unique, but I think there's something very special about Westchester, obviously biased, but it just is like this unique little like enclave of people that I'm really proud of to be there from.
So for those of our listeners who are not familiar with your work, tell them what it is exactly that you do and what your art is.
Yeah, so I am an illustrator, designer. I feel like I refer to the work that I do at West of Chester as a communal yearbook. So it's sort of where I try to recreate my memories of growing up in Miami, specifically Westchester. Though I extend beyond the neighborhood. Sometimes I end up in Kendall when I went to Dandybeer, right?
Oh, that's true.
But it's like an homage to growing up as a Miami kid, specifically like a suburban Miami kid from like cute Nicaraguan and Cuban parents.
Okay, cool. So I have to say, one of the things I absolutely love about your art, and I do want to ask, like, where, the inspiration, because you're an illustrator. It's digital creations?
Yeah. So I make them using Adobe Fresco. on the
Oh, okay.
iPad. And sometimes I sketch, and that's the inspiration for like the process.
Yeah.
Like higher resolution on the iPad.
Because when I look at your stuff, I do get a little bit of like if Warhol had a baby with Liechtenstein and then they went on a date with Kandinsky.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
That's like the vibe I'm getting. And I think
Is anybody calling Brad?
is it they're all calling Brad. That's what they're doing on this date.
Amazing.
That's sort of a joke between us because we went to
The Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a Liechtenstein, yep.
exhibit, and a lot of his artwork was like, "Are you calling Brad?"
Yeah.
Where's Brad? So I was asking him because he's more into him than I am. I'm like, who's
Right.
Brad? Like, who is this Brad character we hear about?
We don't talk about Brad. He makes you cry on the phone. But yeah, no, and I think a lot of that has to do, for me at least, with the way that you use the color blocking.
Oh,
like
cool.
the way that you kind of simplify, but it's still immediately recognizable.
Thank you. I feel like that is such an honor. And I mean, I love Kandinsky so much. I feel like those color palettes are things that I like gravitate to. And I like the kind of like poppy in your face colors. Sometimes I use a pastel, but I feel like I love that comparison. Yeah, that's a huge honor.
So were any of those, I mean, you mentioned you love Kandinsky. Were any of
Yeah.
those inspirational to you? Because I think, you know, a lot of people can, I don't want to say a lot of people can do what you do, but a lot of people will be like, oh, I'm going to recreate my childhood.
Yeah.
But you have a very, very specific viewpoint in how you execute it.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I feel like it's definitely, so I went to art school, so I feel like there's a little bit of like those artists that drive like the inspiration, but I think I also grew up watching like a bunch of cartoons. Like I watched, like I was told by Ginger, and like I don't know, I feel like there's a part of that is like I want to also like cartoonify these places and kind of make it seem as if it's part of an animated short. I know it's not, but it's like maybe one day.
You never know.
Yeah, I think it's part of the process.
When did you decide to like go with this? And how was that process, and exactly what you were going to execute? Because, you know, we were talking, you know, sometimes we have a lot of ideas, but we're not exactly sure where to start and what path to take. How did all this come together?
Yeah, so it's a bit of like a roundabout story.
Our favorite kind.
I know. The sky was blue. No. So I graduated from Southwest, and I got a scholarship to go to Parsons
Nice.
School of Design. Yeah, I was in New York. My mom is like, "What are you doing?
Yes, of
Art
course.
school? Like what?" Yeah, like my mom worked at Navarro. My dad worked at a paint shop in Little Havana for like 30 years. So it wasn't like something that made sense to them. But I guess I figured it out. Like I finagled away. And I actually studied photography. So yeah, I guess, which is also, I think, an influence there is like some kind of photographic element to these drawings. But long story short, I had it in my head that I was going to be a photo editor. We talked about yearbook prior to this. But I had it in my head that I wanted to be a photo editor. And so I interned, and then I landed a job at like Condé Nast Traveler as an assistant
Nice.
editor.
Wow.
Yeah,
Impressive.
It was fun. But it was
Where
not
did
for
you
me.
intern? Because if she ended up at Condé Nast Traveler, I want to know the internships.
So I interned at Teen Vogue, and then I also interned at In Style. It was under Time Inc. Yeah, and then I did like some like freelance photo jobs.
Look at the Southwest Eagles resume.
All of our alumni that we've had on the show do us proud.
Yeah.
I mean, likewise, there's something in the water. I don't know. There's something about Southwest grads. I think that we're kind of like keep on going, and we're kind of tenacious, which is really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So you
No,
wound
of
up at Condé Nast Traveler.
Yeah, so I ended up at Condé Nast Traveler, and it was very different from what I was used to. Everyone that I worked with was like very glamorous, 20 years older than me. I think when I started that job, I was like 21, turning 22. So everyone was a lot older than me, like very well dressed, obviously wealthy. And I was not. I was like living in a studio in Queens with my boyfriend. But yeah, I think that it was a great experience. But I ultimately was like, I felt kind of constrained being a photo editor. Like there wasn't much room for me to like do creative things. I couldn't make anything. And at that time, I didn't really know about like design so much. I think the closest thing that I figured out was like, oh, photo, that's sort of related. And then I actually worked at Condé Nast Traveler, and then I decided to go back home to Miami for a few years. You know, a little bit of derailments where you like end up being like, I'm back home. Photo editors aren't a thing here.
No, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So there was kind of like this transitional period where I was like, okay, how do I pivot? And I ended up just like starting to make these like photo GIFs. So playing around with they're kind of photo illustrations. but I didn't know that at that time. I was just playing around in Photoshop using the timeline feature and seeing what stuck. So I started making GIFs, and I started like posting them on Instagram. This was pre-West of Chester. And I had a friend who worked at Univision at the time and was like, hey, these are really cool. Let me connect you to someone who is an editor. And I was able to finally land like my first freelance project, which was cool. I was able to like make GIFs about like the immigrant experience. This was in 2016, where like that was a very hot topic. And that was like my first foray into design. And I was like, oh, okay, this is something I want to learn. And then little by little, the photo illustrations went to graphic design, and then I started to illustrate. And then fast forward to 2020, when I went back to New York because I got a job offer there. That's when I started West of Chester. It was like the winter of 2020, and I was like in this tiny.
That sounds so epic, especially because 2020 was COVID. She's like, the winter of 2020.
I mean, it was brutal.
It was all winter. 2020.
It was always the sun never came out. But yeah, it was 2020. I was back in New York, and I was feeling disconnected and homesick. So I started to draw, and I made an Instagram account. I was like, I had kind of overcome the fear of sharing my work publicly, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. Like, why not? So I started West of Chester, not really thinking about like the significance of the name. I was like, okay, it's just like a title to host my illustrations because I'm from Westchester. It's like a defining feature. So yeah, it started in 2020. Sorry, that was very long.
No. Listen, I always tell people this is an audio medium. If you don't talk, we got no show.
Yeah.
So
and we're Latin.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
we're
not
Latin,
like you're gonna be like, yes, I was inspired by my hometown.
Period.
Period.
The sense it's in.
So one of the things that I absolutely love about your page and your art is that, yes, you feature a lot of staples from Westchester, but you also feature a lot of things that are very nostalgic. And now, because time has passed and many of them are not there anymore, they have significance. Like, for example, you have a piece of Eckerd's.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't even know if you're old enough to remember Eckerd's.
I am. I made a lot of pit stops at that Eckerd's, specifically. It was a fixture of my childhood.
And seeing that, back in the day, it was like one of those Eckerd drugs.
Yeah.
It's like seeing a CVS now. It's like, oh, another one. But now, like, in your medium, it feels nostalgic.
Yeah.
So was that like a conscious decision? Or you said, oh, let me just play around with this picture or whatever.
Yeah. So it actually started when I did West of Chester. I did a lot more patterns. Like, I think that it was more like things that I saw growing up, like Vaporu, I would illustrate,
right.
Saint candles. And then I think it was maybe 2021 where I was actually back home visiting, and I was like, oh, I want to draw something. I think the first thing that I drew that was like Miami related, a building, was Arbetter. And
as it should be.
As it should be, right?
As it should be. Shout out to Dave and the whole Arbetter crew.
But yeah, I think I started to make that, and I was like, this is really fun. Like, I had never, so you talked about Eckerd's, right? I would spend so much time buying Polaroid film there as a kid and like documenting everything. But I don't know where those photos went.
You don't really?
Yeah, we like moved, and it was this big move. I know, which is so sad. But I was like, I don't really have these photos because I'm very nostalgic. I feel like I love yearbooks.
She said that looking at Darian's yearbook because Darian was the editor-in-chief of the Southwest Yearbook. You were a photo editor on the Southwest Yearbook. So of course,
we're BFFs.
That's it. They've bonded. They've bonded forever.
But yeah, I feel like it was almost in an effort to recreate these photos that I didn't have growing up. And it also like brought me comfort and made me feel really inspired in a way that like the patterns that I was making at the time didn't make me feel.
And again, so many of them are just, I don't want to say mundane as an insult, but just
everyday
life. But
Yeah.
they take on such a special meaning because, for example, scrolling through your pictures here, you have one of Burdines.
Yes.
And if you're from Miami,
the Florida
over
storm.
the age of, I don't know, over the age of 30, Burdines means something.
It does. It means
it means so much. And you have a picture of that. You have a picture of the Book Barn on Bird Road.
Oh, I love that.
Gone but not forgotten.
Gone but not forgotten. Forever in our hearts.
Okay, I'm gonna peel back the curtain here. When we found out, do you remember when we found out that the Book Barn was going away? we, amongst our friends, all seriously got together and tried to figure out if we could buy it.
No way.
Like, we figured out how we would, not only how we would buy it, but how we would renovate it, how we would put like a little coffee shop. We actually,
That's amazing.
that was like 2 days of our lives that we literally were like, okay, but if we do it and we could do this, I mean, it never came of anything clearly.
But still.
But that is how much the Book Barn just lives inside of us.
It was amazing.
Because the Book Barn, I felt that even if you weren't a reader, again, going back to Southwest,
Yeah.
you always had to go to the Book Barn to buy the book or the Cliff Notes.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, like-
That's such a good point.
So, even if you weren't like the reading type,
Yeah.
you had the Book Barn was part of your life.
Yes.
And you did a piece of that, and that's actually what I love about your content. That again, it's everyday things that have so much meaning now in retrospect, and obviously it's art, but it creates a personal connection to some, with the person seeing it, because so many times art is like the perspective of the artist, or maybe something that the artist has gone through.
Yeah.
That maybe on an emotional level you could relate to, but these are commonalities in terms of experiences that we all had, but you made it into art.
Which also has an emotional layer to it.
Yeah.
Whether you
Yeah.
intended or unintentionally, right? Like, because like we're just
Right.
Packard, the Book Barn. Like, these are things that like it's our childhood.
Exactly.
So there is emotion.
Yeah, and I feel like as Miami kids, I feel like we don't really have things that are our own that we can reminisce on and feel like, oh, this is our childhood. And it's true what you said, like a lot of these places are like a mundane Sunday afternoon, but I feel like that's what makes it special because it's so unique to us. And I feel like these like little artifacts, it's hard to come by. Like I often don't see things that I grew up with, and I feel like, oh, this is something that I can keep and have with me. So I feel like that's really cool that I'm able to do.
And I
part of
also
that.
feel that, I guess this happens in a lot of places, not only Miami, but Miami and specifically, we have a really bad habit of not acknowledging our culture and not curating our history and just knocking things down and forgetting about them. And in a way, you are keeping a lot of this alive.
Yeah.
Because
Thank you.
you're again making it into art that people can buy, they could see, and they can relate to. So, good. I mean,
Thank you so
I love
much.
it. I love it.
No, and you're not wrong when you say there wasn't a lot of that that tangible memory to hold on to. But I will say this, thanks to people like yourself, Miami Stadium, Martha Miami.
Yeah.
You guys have really turned that around. I feel like as individually, but if you take it as a whole, and there's probably others out there that we don't know of, you really are turning that around and making it so that now we all do have this like share. I mean, you really said it like that. What is it? The digital yearbook or
It's a communal yearbook. Yeah.
It really is that, and I hadn't thought about that at all until
Yeah.
you mentioned it, and it started like rattling in my head. That's really what it becomes,
Right.
And it's like, okay, so it's art because it's beautiful on its own. But then it transcends to something else, like all good art should.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like there's a part of it too that I want to make art accessible. Like I want to make people feel like their memories are worthy of like immortalizing and keeping as a print and seeing. And I don't know. I think that there's like something about that I want to make. I think that something that's interesting about like my art is I've been able to like connect with people who aren't really into art. Like otherwise, like there's obviously like a community of artists that I've met that have been so cool, folks like you guys, but I think there's also like an abuela who like happened upon my art and she was like, oh my god, I remember this place. So there's kind of like the people that appreciate it as art, but also the people that appreciate like memorializing
When
together.
she said abuela, I think about the one you have Mira el Cantón. Because so many people loved El Cantón, the Chinese,
Del 87.
yeah,
Oh my
the Chinese
gosh.
restaurant.
This was so good.
Mira el Cantón.
There are sometimes I still get a craving for it. I'm not going to pretend.
You know
We
that
would go there all the time.
that disappeared with like very quietly. Yeah. I remember not too long ago driving by there. I'm like, Cantón is not there anymore. Like
That place was the best. I feel like when I was around 7 or so, I picked up the trick that like if you say it's your birthday, you get a free dessert. And I tried to pull that at Canton. And they were like, no, here's some wonton sticks. I was like, I love you. This is a great experience.
You still got something, though. You
Still
still
got
got
it, yeah.
something.
and they didn't move somewhere else. They just closed.
That's a good question.
I mean, I feel if they would have moved, we would have.
I'm going to put that out there for you, Miami Stadium and Burger Beast. If anybody of our listeners is going to know,
Yeah.
it's going to be Miami Stadium or Burger Beast.
I think it was Canton, and then it became like a China Steakhouse 3, I want to say. And then now I think it's like, I don't know what happened to it now. I know there's like a Cien Montaditos next door.
It's still that. No, I think that Chinese restaurant is still
Oh,
there.
is it? Maybe.
I think it might still be there. Look, it's tucked away.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's Canton anymore. But whatever.
Yeah,
the
No,
last,
it's definitely not
China-
Canton.
But the last version of the name, it's
Yeah.
still there as a Chinese restaurant. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah.
It probably, they sold it and now it went under new management and they thought it would be clever to change the name.
Yeah, I wonder if I haven't been in a while. I wonder if that like red bench is still there. I remember
I
that.
couldn't even tell you.
Yeah. I got it. Weekend plan.
Yes, there we go.
Check out if the red bench is there.
Group trip. That's
Yes. Ask for wontons.
yes.
Say it's my birthday.
We're gonna say we want the Melissa special. We want the red one, the wontons on the red bench. That's what we want.
Christmas is here, the time of year we start baking for family and friends. So many recipes out there call for water, but substituting milk makes a much richer tasting treat. O sea, nobody leaves Santa Claus water in cookies. It's not just baked goods either. From hot chocolate, flan, or coquito, so many holiday treats are irresistible because of dairy. This holiday season, find the perfect recipe by visiting floridamilk.com or lechedeflorida.com. Feliz Navidad from your Florida dairy farmers, and pero let me tell you.
Now, you mentioned, that you've exposed your art really to people who aren't art lovers in that sense. How has that reaction been? And do you find that that's been like the majority of what you're getting from people who are just kind of like on the nostalgia end of it versus the art, so to speak? I'm using air quotes, art, end of it.
Yeah, I think it's 50-50. So I feel like sometimes when I play around with type, I get people that are like, oh, I really love like the colors that you use in the scheme. This is really cool. But I think there's also like a very big percentage of people that are just reminiscing and are just like, this is really cool. It looks like a cartoon version of my memories, which is like the best compliment.
It's lovely because it's and I know it's not like I'm parsing, but it's cartoonish without being cartoony.
I love that.
Because there's again, it's the simplicity of it, what you emphasize really drives it home, but it's also not like exaggerated. And
I think that when you
And-
see them from afar, it looks like a picture that's very, it looks like a photograph, but it looks like a high contrast picture.
Yeah.
With like a filter. But then when you look at it closely, it's like, oh, this is art. Like this
love
is,
it. Thank
so you
you.
could kind of see it from both ways.
That is the inspiration from the Eckerd Polaroid film I would buy. Like that kind of color scheme where it feels like a little bit.
I defy anyone to show me another episode that has referred to Eckerd more than this.
Yeah.
And our previous episodes don't count because that's the only other
will
one.
never know the excitement that it was to pick up your pictures at Eckerd.
Yes.
My kid the other day asks me, what is 1 hour photo? And I'm like, how do I even start to explain? I was like, well, cameras used to have film, but then you would send them to be developed. But then you had the option of doing a 1 hour photo, which was never an hour.
It was never.
Yeah, it was never an hour. It was always someone on their lunch break, which turned into like the day off.
Yeah, and the day of. It was like later in the day, but close enough. So it's like these kids have like no concept of what 1 hour photo is.
That's amazing. I feel like there was something there about like waiting for it and like having that excitement that you're talking about.
You didn't know
just,
what was
like,
on that film?
You didn't know.
You opened up that thing of the pictures when they were printed. Like it was like the most like the anticipation of that.
Al Capone's vault.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
like-
Yes. You didn't know what you were getting.
I would love to interview a like photo technician that worked at Eckerd in the 90s, like developing photos, because I feel like I took the most unflattering photos of my parents from all angles.
Yeah.
I just
We all
wonder.
did.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh. You know what I used to do? Not every Eckert's didn't have this, but a lot of places when you would have your pictures developed, they would put them like on these trays alphabetized, so you could go and get them yourself.
Yeah.
I would look through them.
Why did I
amazing.
gasp? That is not surprising to me
Just
at
the
all. That
contact
you would
sheet
do
or the
it.
images?
No, the images.
Amazing.
Yeah, I would like just look through them. I mean, I would put them back.
So all these people, you probably left finger smudges on all these
Maybe.
people's photos.
That was especially a thing at Costco. Like,
You
back
added
in the day.
texture. It's like another art element
Yeah,
to it.
yeah. And then remember that
Now
if
it's
you, if
performance
you
art.
wanted to print them like matte, it was like an extra like
Oh,
2 or 3
yeah.
days.
yeah.
Amazing.
Those were not available in 1 hour photo.
Or a month.
You kids have no idea how good you have it. I sound like an old man telling people not to stay off my lawn and shit. Oh, Lord. So, I'm about to ask you a very, very loaded question. Now,
I'll adjust my glasses. For
you've done several pieces. Which one is your favorite?
Oh, I cycled through this answer.
Okay, because I'm like, I know I just asked you to pick between all of
Yeah.
your children,
I
but
know.
which one is your favorite?
I feel like so I've been working on a Miami alphabet series. I feel like I'm getting really fond of that because I think I'm able to like explore a little bit more there. I'm like not limited to the buildings, but then I'm also really into, I've been doing like series of abuelos and abuelas and the sayings that we heard growing up as Miami kids. And that one's really fun too.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to connect with like my grandmother. She passed away a while ago.
I'm sorry.
So it's okay. It's a way of keeping it alive, you know,
Yeah,
the memory.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. What letter are you at with the alphabet?
I just published J today, I want to say. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that when you get to P,
Okay.
we have a perfect suggestion for you, pero let me tell you. Or Pim Pam Pollo.
Our chicken.
Because we don't want to limit you. We gave you 2 options for P.
I love that. It can be like a montage.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
the artist.
I mean, in Ping Pong Pollo, there's 3 P's.
This is true. I mean, you're getting a bang for your buck, really, with Pim Pam Pollo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is
So we're just putting, again, you're the artist.
yeah.
We would never,
No,
ever tell you
I
which
like
way
this.
to take it. But options.
So, what are some of the plans or things in the works for this? Because I feel this is like a brand at this point.
Yeah, so I feel like what's really cool about the alphabet series is like when I get to a new letter, I'm crowdsourcing all of the answers. So it's not just like my imagination. I feel like, again, I'm trying to like keep that community theme alive. So it's like a collection of all of our Miami alphabets. TBD on the actual product yet, but I'm excited. I'm excited at what's to come.
I love it. So, I mean, but you do, all of these are prints available for purchase, right?
Not the alphabet yet. So
Not the
far.
alphabet, but
Yeah.
but you do have.
Yes, yeah. So everything aside from the alphabets, the abuelitos, the abuelitas, and the buildings are all up for purchase on westofchester.com.
What, I mean, could you have a better freaking website? Westofchester.com.
I
mean,
really lucked out with that name.
You know what? I was gonna say, milagro that nobody had it yet.
I know. I was like, wow, this is.
So
I gotta take
let
it.
me ask you this: since you're the official, unofficial, officially Westchester artist, where does Westchester begin and where does it end?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I mean, it ends right before Palace 18. I want to say like that last Westchester sign that you see going that way. And
I
then
love
where
that
does
because
it-
it's no longer even called Palace, is it?
I know,
Like,
it's not, but
I
it
love
should
it.
be.
I love it. I love it.
And where does it begin? It's a good question.
So wait, when you go down that little hill,
I love that hill.
there's a "Welcome to Westchester" sign there.
Yeah,
because I know there's a sign there, but I'm like, does it say "Welcome to" Is it Westchester?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I feel like the beginning is
okay,
right
so
off the
117th
expressway.
Okay, 117.
Yeah.
That is Coral Way.
Uh-huh.
Definitely not past 107.
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
the
we
cutoff
have
is the little sign. I mean, once you've gone to the bridge, you've gone too far.
Well, no. Westchester starts by like the expressway on Coral Way.
right 117th.
Oh, okay.
117th runs parallel to the turnpike.
Okay. No, I said expressway, not the turnpike.
Beto Express. I think it's between. Here we are figuring this out. I think it's between the turnpike and the Palmetto.
I feel
Yes.
like
Yeah.
feels right to
That's.
me.
I'm agreeing. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm
wait,
agreeing with you.
wait,
Yes,
there's a
because
sign-
when you get
I
off
said,
when you get off the Palmetto on Bird Road, right in front of Tropical Park,
There's a
it's welcome to Westchester.
Yeah,
So
there's
yes,
another one right before I think you leave Palace 18.
right, and then there's another one on 87th and
And
Coral
there's
Way.
Bird Road.
Right. So I think we're okay.
Okay. So turnpike.
But it's not Sunset.
Okay. Turnpike.
No.
Turnpike to Palmetto.
Yeah.
8th Street. And then what's the southern border? Miller.
I would say Miller.
I guess Miller does feel
it's
a
not
little
Sunset.
Westchester-y.
Sunset feels Kendall.
Yeah.
Sunset doesn't feel very Westchester. I think
No.
like the light starts to change there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And then Sunset has that weird part where it's like going into Sunset. No, it's not
Yeah,
Sunset.
Yeah.
No.
No,
I think
Miller.
Miller,
It's Miller.
feels right.
Miller.
Yeah.
It feels like a good place to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know, you know. If you know, you know.
I love this so much.
I feel that Sunset, it's like Sunset wants to be Kendall, but it's not Kendall yet.
Yeah.
But it's not Westchester.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, like it's those people who can't afford the private school but send their kids there anyway.
Or they send them to like a 3rd tier private school
Right.
just to say I sent my kid to private school.
Right. That's totally Sunset.
That's what I loved about Westchester is like I mean, no offense to private school, right? But I feel like that public school is always alive and well in my heart. Like I just feel like as a product of it,
Oh yeah.
you're grateful for
No
it.
arguments here.
I love to shit on private school all the time. When
I didn't want to offend.
when people tell me like, oh, I'm like, listen, I went to public school all like my entire school career.
Yeah.
I ended up going to college. I went to law school.
Amazing.
You know, my kid is in public school now, and he's in a great little school. So whatever.
I feel like there's a savviness to it. Like you just figure it out. You become more independent. I mean, I had never stepped foot in a private school, so it could be the Wild Wild West.
I'll tell you this: ain't no private school kid making West of Chester paintings. Okay, I will say that. I will be on the record.
I've sort of come to
Appreciate
the
that.
conclusion that a lot. I mean, obviously, there's some kids that do flourish in private schools, and there's some private schools that, you know, do have some programs that if you're a kid that maybe is in a specific program or whatever, you're definitely a fit or a match for that. But I just think, especially a lot of kids nowadays, their parents are second generation.
Yeah.
It's like for the parents, it's like, oh, so and so goes here.
Yeah, like a status symbol.
Yeah. It's like so and so goes here. Oh, my kids go here. It's like it's more for the parents to brag, as you said, as a status symbol than the actual kid. The kid is just like whatever.
I know. I'd rather
they
brag
have no
about a
choice. They're
garden.
going where there's
Yeah, like I know it's weird to think about, like, but that is part of Miami, right? Is like the kind of like flashiness or like these like labels. Not all of Miami, right? But there's like
It's an element.
It's an element. There's a subset that like kind of likes the label.
Yeah, definitely. It's for the parents to like brag and be like,
Hey, let's just say what Miami tiene como mierda. That's it. Like, just let's put. I mean, why are we beating around the bush, kids? Like, come on.
and I know kids that go to private school, and it's like they tell me the stories, and I'm like,
Really?
that never happened in Southwest. Just so you know.
As far as we know,
I mean, listen, I know we're talking a lot about Southwest, but Southwest is the high school of Westchester.
It is.
So
It's
it really
its
is.
mascot.
it is. It is. I mean, we might as well be on that little sign that says "Welcome to Westchester." Just to
my
have an
gosh.
eagle next to it, right
Yes.
there. Yeah.
Have you done one of Southwest?
I actually haven't, and I feel like it's kind of like an internal conversation I've been having. And so I have a form where people submit like buildings that they want me to draw.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and a lot of people want me to like draw high schools, and I'm like, I don't know. It's something that I'm like considering. Obviously, Southwest would be the first one, but then everyone is like, what about St. Brendan, and what about the
Right. I mean, because those are Westchester as
Exactly.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
As we
true.
determine now by the boundaries that we just made up.
But it's part of a larger series, so I think it requires like a lot of thought. But I think I would.
You know what? I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
You know what I think would be interesting? And again, you're the artist, but what year is it that you graduated from Southwest?
2010.
Okay, so we graduated in 97, 2010. The school has changed so much. It would
Yeah.
almost be interesting to see a Southwest series of just how the changes through the years.
like throughout
That
the
would
years.
actually be a great idea.
Yeah.
When we graduated in 97, at the end of our senior year, they were knocking down the front of the school to build what's there today.
No way.
Yeah, so like you went to a different Southwest than
Yeah.
we did, and
I think what's there now
and
is
what's there
different.
now is different. From
Yeah,
the new one.
totally
Yeah.
different.
Because it's like a brand new school now.
I know it's like extended massively.
They
There's
knocked
like
down
these
D-Wing.
color blocks.
They knocked down D-Wing.
D-Wing.
Yeah, and they built a completely new like wing. It's like really, really nice.
Wow.
Really, really nice. Because when we were there, it was already like 50 years old, so it was a little rough around the edges.
It had character.
Character. She was
Character.
flourishing.
You know what? That would be awesome. You know.
I think
would
that'd
be
be,
really
I mean, that'd be
cool.
something interesting to
Yeah.
consider, shall
No,
we say.
I love that. Like, I feel like my perfect day is just like looking at places and drawing them. So it's not far off of what I'd want
Not
to
a
do.
bad day from where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
Especially when we get to see the finished product on your Instagram.
What other major high school is there in the boundaries that we just set for Westchester?
I mean, St. Brendan, Columbus.
Right. Southwest.
I guess Coral Park. We just set the boundary. We said A Street.
No. We said Coral Way.
Oh, we said Coral Way?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Okay. No, cut off. Sorry, the Coral Park people.
No.
The
I
Rams
do
are going to
apologize.
be. Rams are going to be pissed. You
Coral
know we're going to
Park-
get some
Coral Park
emails.
doesn't feel like Westchester.
Well, Coral Park's more Sweetwater.
No, it's more like Flagler.
It does feel Flagler.
Yeah.
It feels Flagler.
See, to me, Flagler doesn't feel like it has schools.
Yeah, does it just feel like one row?
Yeah, like Flagler to me seems old timey, so I don't think children
It does.
exist there.
No. Flagler to me feels like Mall of the Americas, which is now back to Midway Mall.
That is a wild rebrand. I feel like, why would they take away such a great name?
Everything old is
Well,
new
you know,
again.
it used to be called Midway Mall.
So they went back to the name.
When we were kids, it used to be called Midway Mall.
My mother was still now my mother's right again.
You know what's funny? So it changed to Mall of Americas when we were kids, but I sort of remember when it was Midway Mall. But when it did become Mall of America in like the early 90s, like I remember we went there a lot.
It was a big rebrand, a big refresh.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was new, pretty mall.
Yeah.
I
Like,
say
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think this was before my time.
Yeah, no, definitely
No,
before
no,
your time.
yeah,
Yes.
And like it had a movie theater, like
Yeah,
it had
yeah,
a big AMC, it had like a huge record store.
Oh,
it
I
had a
remember
big,
Specs,
It had a
but
big
not in my-
Specs. But then it went downhill. And about 2 years ago, I went there. I had a doctor's appointment for my son, and I dropped him off. So I went to the mall like right at 10 a.m. when it opened, and there was nobody there. And I'm like, this is stuck in time. It was literally like going back in
Really?
time because everything was still from the early 90s.
I was gonna say, what's the state of the food court?
The food court at the entrance was still there.
Okay.
It was just there.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
only thing that was different is that the fountains at the entrance had seen better days. The waterfall fountain.
Eso lo que echaba is polvo now. It's not. It's not water.
But
It's-
What a memory.
I remember that when I went a few years ago, maybe it was like 3 years ago, there was this store called Midway Sports.
Okay.
That used to be, it was like a store to
Yeah,
buy
yeah.
bats and all that. That I remember when I was like a little kid that I played
Yeah.
baseball, I used to buy my stuff there. But this was like in the late 80s. And they were, I think, one of the original tenants, and they were there.
Wow.
They're
They're still there.
I don't know if
I
they're
mean,
still
when
there, but
you
they
were-
were
when
there
you were
3
there.
years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. I mean,
So,
that's
but
good
the
news.
COVID hit, so
that's
who
true.
knows
Yeah.
what made it, but
I did get my license at Mall of the Americas.
That's right. The
that
driving
is
school.
the place to get the license.
I know, because I had heard that the one by FIU fails people often. And I was like, I'm not taking any chances.
Is there a more Westchester story than that?
I was gonna say you have just like additional bona fides of your Westchester cred with that story.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is so much fun.
This is a blast.
I love this.
It's
Can
not
we have
every
a
day-
book club?
It's not every day that you could sit down and talk to, the official artist of Westchester.
That's true. You know what? We're gonna see about getting you a little plaque that says
God.
official artist
Have
of
you
Westchester.
have you done, because I went through your Instagram and I haven't seen it. I don't remember seeing it. Have you done one of the Tropicare flea market?
I have not, no. But I feel like it's definitely been submitted before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's like a biggie.
I know.
But that was definitely
was-
before your time.
Yeah, that was before
Yes,
my time. But I
yes.
still want to,
Yeah.
pay my respects.
Yeah, no, but I can understand how you maybe are focusing on because with the way it started was you feeling homesick. So I
Exactly.
understand that you
Yeah.
were going with what you knew.
Right.
It's funny because the Tropicare flea market, like I actually did go a lot as a kid, and it's one of those things that how nostalgia just softens everything and everything is
does.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Like we all now think of the Tropicare flea market, like, oh my god, do you remember the flea market? But I think about it, I'm like, it was miserable, like because it was an
Was
old
it?
drive-in.
Yeah,
it was an
yeah.
old drive-in, so you had to park all the way in the back. That wasn't made for a flea market, right?
No.
You had to drive
And
all
then
the
this
way
heat?
in the heat. You had to drive all the way in the back. There was not a parking lot, so you had to park in the mud.
Yeah.
Right. So then I feel that in the 80s and the 90s they didn't have these like accordion tents we have now. Like people didn't have those. So I don't know. People would just take pieces of like textile, like cloth, and hang it. It was awful.
It was like the market in Agrabah.
And then the thing was that
Aladdin.
it wasn't. I don't think it was a real like organized thing that like
Yeah.
people were merchants. I remember there were people.
No
who-
official vendors.
No, people would go and sell like old stuff they had in their house.
Oh, I
Like
love
instead of
that.
going to the Goodwill, they would go to the
Yeah.
Tropicare flea market.
Pero claro, antes de regalarlo, va
Right.
a ver si le saco 10 kilos.
But we think about it so nostalgically.
I
It's
know.
Like, remember cuando íbamos al pulguero? Like,
I love that so much.
And so you meet that one person who's like, yes, I do. And it was horrible. Hated it.
Oh, I do get some of those comments sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like I forget what specifically it was, but I think there's like a portion of people being like, "Oh, the best times," and then I think it was a Mall of the Americas, and someone was like, "This place is a dump. Why would anyone draw this?"
yeah, somebody always has to ruin the fun.
It's true.
Siempre un pájaro maragüero.
Yeah.
Un pelo en la sopa.
Exactly. Oh, Lord. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for coming by.
thank you.
We've been enjoying your art for a minute now, and again, as two very, very proud Westchester boys, like we mentioned this at least 17 times an episode. We could not have you on the show.
Oh, I appreciate you both so
and
much.
thank you so much for just creating art, but also tugging at the heartstrings, and I know, westofchester.com, guys, get thee to the site. They're beautiful prints. They have a great pop of color. They look great in your living room. They make a great regalito para la Navidad, para un cumpleaños, para una graduación, para una comunión, unos 15. It works for everything, un bautizo. But honestly, just thank you for what you do.
you.
Because you really are creating art out of our memories, and that really does take a special person to do it well and also have that effect on people. So thank you so much for doing that.
Well, thank you. And thank you both to like bringing these like stories and being this like really amazing like I feel like this is not just because I'm on here, but I love listening to the podcast when I design as well. So there's like a part of you when I'm making like the artwork, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
So you have to say, if you buy her prints, you're also buying a part of us.
It's
Yes.
true.
You know she's legit when she has prints of La Vaquita.
Oh, I love that place. That cheese bread.
The ice cream. So anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you both.
Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lamleplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.